How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie, and my two guests today, Mr. John Olson, Packers superfan out in Winter Garden, Florida. Also our fantasy commissioner. And I am also here with my guy, Idris, a.k.a. Mr. Bosco from the Bronx. How you guys doing? Good to see you.
What's up?
Good.
Good morning.
Football is back, boys, and today is our first preview for the new season. We are doing the NFC North. Before we get there, do want to hit on a couple of news topics. Some good news for Idris and I. Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants agreeing to a one-year, $11 million deal. This thing can reach up to $12 million in incentives. Glad it's over for now, but I must admit, if he would have took the original deal, he would have avoided a lot of this nonsense. I have a feeling there's going to be a change of agent coming in the near future. But I'm happy that this is behind us as Giant fans. For now, we can focus on a week one opponent. Very good football team that we have not been able to get the best of. Of course, I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And Saquon's been staying ready. You know, he's ready to play football. If anything, I think this experience will definitely keep him more in tune to the way the business side of it works, particularly for his position, running backs. But I'm confident that this is going to keep Saquon in a Giant uniform for the foreseeable future. I think that the Giants doing something that most teams never do, which is add money to an already existing franchise tag, I think is their way of showing him that he is important to them, that they don't want to lose him. And I think in the end, after this year, he will ultimately stay with the team.
I agree 100%. I think I definitely agree about him probably changing agents soon, because I think the agent basically shortchanged him, and made him think more than what he was. I mean, and this is not to doubt any of Saquon's talent, but I think he overpriced Saquon for the market and for the period of the NFL. You know, the time
I read an interesting article about his agent, and supposedly she's had a notorious reputation for kind of being the relationship shatterer and not really taking into consideration what the team means to the player means to the team. Those kind of personal relationships that go deeper than the dollars and cents. Because a lot of times, whether it be MLB, you see a guy like Jose Ramirez on the Guardians always taking less money because he loves the city and he loves the organization. You do see things like that because there are other avenues, especially in a place like New York. He's a beloved player. You're going to do great with the endorsements.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're going to do great with the merchandise. But for now, I'm happy it's over for now. Yeah. You know, we'll be here next year again, but I think it's going to be a little more pleasant now that he's a little more in tune, and I think he's going to get a better agent.
I think he's going to play hungry too.
Wasn't the original offer for a little over $13 million?
It's been kind of conflicting stories. I've heard 12.5. I've heard 13 even. I think he wanted that McCaffrey money, and I've said it on many shows lately. You need to have the McCaffrey skill set. And that is a rare skill set that maybe only he and a prime Kamara share. Your guy in Green Bay, maybe on a lesser level, Aaron Jones, I actually think, plays that two-way kind of ball where he's a huge threat with the hands. And that's going to be huge for your rookie quarterback this year, you know, using the security blankets. You know, Green Bay drafted 2 tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, that's always been a staple of their offenses over the years, going all the way back to Magic Man Majowski and Brett Favre. So that, you know, as much as things,
Chewy,
as much as things change,
Chimera and Favre, they had some wild times.
I love Chimera, man.
Yeah, he was a hell of a tight end.
Jones took a pay cut. I don't know if you knew that.
I did see that. Yes,
he took a pay cut to stay in Green Bay now.
Yeah.
I think for another 3 years, which I really like him as a running back. He's a small stature, but he can hit.
He can hit you. Yeah.
I like him as a person too, because One thing I saw about him a couple of years ago when you guys beat the Arizona Cardinals, obviously Green Bay always travels well no matter what city you're in. And the fact that he hung out as long as he did to sign as many autographs as possible, take as many pictures, I think it goes to show that on a team like that particularly, it's more than just cashing in checks and playing a kid's game for 3 hours. A lot of those Packers are truly immersed into the community, and my late father, that's something that he always prided himself on being a Packer fan for that reason alone. A couple of more news stories before we move it along to the actual divisional preview. Running back Nyheim Hines and cornerback C.J. Gardner-Johnson of the Bills and Lions, respectively. Johnson is a former Philadelphia Eagle. They are lost to season-ending injuries. Hines had a accident on a jet ski. As far as Johnson goes, a knee injury. We wish them speedy recovery. You never want to hear that kind of stuff, but I will say this. This Hines story reminds me similarly of what happened to X-Man, our guy, our safety, last year during the bye week, messing around on the ATV. There are certain provisions in certain contracts that, will penalize players for taking those kind of risks. It could have been worse, so I'm just happy that ultimately these guys will be back because you never know. Those kind of things could actually be life-threatening.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also got 2 more suspensions due to gambling. Sadly, I think these are going to continue to pile up as the NFL continues to investigate. These 2 are going back to 2 different players regarding 2022. It happened to Calvin Ridley. That's probably the biggest name notoriety guy that got popped for gambling. But he actually makes his return this year. He's now a Jacksonville Jaguar. But yeah, it's a zero tolerance thing for sure. And I think after what occurred with going back to Pete Rose, and then whenever you have so much as a hiccup or any kind of question from your fans talking about officiating, this is something the NFL just doesn't want their players involved in. And I expect that if guys don't wisen up, these penalties are going to continue to pile. But not worth it. These guys most of them are young, still on their rookie deals. You get one shot at this thing, most guys. You get drafted. That's like hitting the lotto in a lot of ways because there's a lot of great players that don't make the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, John.
But the NFL, though, I find it comical in a way that how they promote FanDuel and the gambling end of it now. To me, it's being hypocritical.
I tend to agree, John. And, even if we flip it over to baseball for a moment, seeing Cincinnati be the first ones to truly embrace gambling and promoting it within the actual billboards of the stadium, you go back to the Pete Rose thing. Then you have a guy like Scott Rowland getting inducted into the Hall. And listen, I'm not trying to take a crap on the guy, but we can make a list of other ball players who are more deserved. You take a Thurman Munson. You could take a Don Mattingly. There's a lot of players from a certain era where you're like, well, these guys didn't cheat, but maybe they're suffering because they didn't cheat because it's a weird line to walk. I think Major League Baseball has to do a better job of embracing steroid era players that weren't using steroids. And I think hopefully they can get there. And I think that there comes a point where you might as well put these guys in, but put them in their own wing. I don't think any of these guys are necessarily afraid.
Mm-hmm. Put them at the end of the hall.
Put them near the bathroom.
You know what?
But that might be sending the wrong message too, because that's where some of this cheating occurred.
You know what? The thing about it is, and there's one player who I feel you could put in despite the steroids was Barry Bonds.
I tend to agree.
Before the steroids, he was already a Hall of Fame player. His numbers showed it. His numbers eclipse a lot of these guys who are in there now, Scott Rowland, even though they play 2 different positions.
Yeah, sure.
Then a lot of these plays, this is the Pittsburgh Pirate days when he was skinny, and of all those steroid guys, I would put him in based on those numbers. And even if you don't want to count what he did afterward, so be it. But I will put him in there. And this is not anything against McGuire or Sosa or who's the knucklehead that sat in front of
Clemens.
Yeah, you could name a bunch.
Not Clemens. The one that sat in front of the
Rafael Palmeiro.
Palmeiro. Yeah,
that's Zappy's boy.
Yeah, that guy. I would put Bonds.
Great mustache.
Yeah. I put Bonds in there, but I think I will put them all in there. Put Bonds separate from them, and just have a wing like this era.
Yeah, because my issue for the longest has been you can't be hypocrites at the top and have it one way or your way or flipped away, because at the end of the day, what's more egregious? Saving your sport on the back of guys that were using PEDs. It brought a lot of people back to the ballpark after the 94 strike. But you're talking about an institution that has a lot of hypocrisy. Shoeless Joe Jackson still not in the Hall of Fame, but yet they continue to make money off of the Field of Dreams movie, the Field of Dreams game. Up until recently, the great Negro League players were not acknowledged. They finally got in. Mm-hmm. There's so many other cracks and immoral things that have happened in this great game that they need to hone in on before they start worrying about being the moral police. Because if you're gonna be the moral police, they got to clean up their backyard a little better first. I mean, hell, you can go on for an hour. Reggie Jackson, half Puerto Rican, half African American, during his tenure with Oakland, was not able to stay in the same hotels as his white brothers. Right. Some of his best friends that they had to actually sneak him in. It's in the grand scheme of things, this wasn't that long ago. So it's something that I think all of us as Americans need to keep at the forefront of our mind to be like, hey, man, this shit was unacceptable and we don't want this to ever happen again. But that is done for now. We're going to probably elaborate on that on a future show. But without further ado, it is the NFC North. The Chicago Bears finishing last place last season. And I must say, I think they finally got their franchise quarterback in the form of Justin Fields. I have a feeling that this Bears team is not far. I think that they're actually, obviously they were in the mix for worst record in the league. But when you look at their history going all the way back to the 1980s, the Jim McMahon era, I mean, dude, you really can't name a franchise quarterback in the Lombardi era. Maybe if you take it back to the Hallis era, you could find a couple. Mm-hmm. But in a pass-happy league, quarterback-driven league, they needed this. Key additions, Deontay Foreman, who I actually think is going to win the running back job. DJ Moore, bona fide number one. I like who they got at offensive line in the draft. Darnell Wright. Gervon Dexter, actually from the University of Florida. Tyreek Stevenson. These are all quality pickups. And in a division where Aaron Rodgers is no longer going to dominate, he's out east now, I do think that this opens up the lane literally for any team in this division, Green Bay included. I'm not sold that the Bears did enough on defense yet. I do like their offense, though. Cole Kmet continuing to improve as a tight end. Their O-line is gradually getting better. I'll tell you what. I got the Bears going 8-9 this year. I don't think they're going to be in the playoffs, but I have a much improved Bears team this year. And I do think that between their quarterback Fields and between their dual running back threat of Herbert and Foreman, I actually think this could be a team that leads the league in rushing or at the top of the list, leading the league in rushing as a team.
Fields himself was an 1,100-yard rusher last year.
Right. Yeah, that's impressive.
He basically rushed for half the yards that he passed for. Mm-hmm. He had 2,242 passing yards and 1,143 rushing yards.
That's correct.
Anyone that picked him up or drafted him as their quarterback, they were getting 40-point weeks on the weeks he ran for 2 touchdowns and 140 yards,
Right.
So, but with DJ Moore and a bona fide receiver, like you said, Richie, those passing yards are going to go up. Oh,
yeah. And a guy like Mooney, who's a number 2, I think he's going to benefit big time. getting lesser coverage, so to speak, because defenses are going to be honing in on their main guy. That's always a strategy. You want to take the best receiver out of games. I mean, hell, you've seen it over the years with your team having a talent for so many years like Devontae, where other guys were making plays because, they were like, somebody else is going to beat us, not that guy. But this is a team offensively that I think is going to be able to put up points. The question is, can they get enough stops, or can they maybe be the bend but don't break defense that can win some of these games? Minnesota did not exactly have a great defense last year. I also think they had to be one of the most fortunate teams I've seen in many years to win that many close games. That's usually not the recipe in the NFL, but I got the Bears going 8-9. I'm going to say a third place finish at 8-9.
I agree with both you guys sitting. I think with DJ Moore and Foreman, two former Panthers, they know each other. They know each other's game, habits, the whole thing. I think that's a good 1-2 right there. Because I watched Foreman play living here in North Carolina, and this guy runs hard. He's shifty. Yeah. I mean, he's what they need. Justin Fields, like John said, 1,100 yards, man, 22 throwing the ball. But now he has DJ Moore, someone who knows how to run routes, can catch the ball, can streak down the field, can go across the middle. He got the receiver he needs. I mean, Moore's not like one of the top 5 in the league or anything like that. However, he's an upgrade from what they had last year. Foreman's an upgrade again. That'll take some of the running off of Justin Field. The drafting of Dexter was going to help because he took a lot of hits last year. You got to keep this kid up on his feet. So I think they'll be better. They'll look better. The defense needs to get a little bit better, but I think that offense will carry them a little bit.
So what do you say would be your final record here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go, I guess 8-9.
So you got them right around that
8-9, 9-8. I think they can flip it.
Yeah, the only way you go 500 now is you need a tie now. The only way anybody goes 500 these days with the odd number of games. Yeah. And 8-9, would that be for you a second or third place finish in that division?
I say third.
Okay, we agree on this. Okay, yeah. Mr. Olsen, you're up.
Well, I think I'd go 7-10.
Okay.
Last year, I mean, they play the Packers tough every time.
Yes.
They had us something like 21-10 or 24-10 going into the fourth quarter last year, and Rodgers did get two touchdowns, whatever it took to beat them.
Yeah.
But they always play Green Bay tough. I guess last year was their defense wasn't that strong, and they and on offense, the teams took Mooney away because he had a lot of receptions the previous season. Last year, anyone that drafted Mooney, I think I drafted him in one of my leagues thinking he's going to get a bunch of receptions. He caught 1 or 2 passes a game was about it.
I think their issue last year was that they had too many number 2s and 3s, and now they got their number 1, which is going to make life easier for the Moonies and the other guys, like Claypool, another guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people laughed at that trade that the Steelers made. They're like, "Oh, the Steelers just got over." I tend to agree because I don't see Claypool as a number 1.
No, he's not a number 1.
No,
but I think he's serviceable. I think he's going to add something to him.
This team's not far, but I kind of view them similarly to having similar issues as the Lions last year, as the Vikings. Vikings won a lot of games because they had a outstanding offense, but the defense needs to be better for this team to be a playoff team. John's got them at 7-10, and what would that be in your estimation, John? Is that 4th or 3rd?
I think it will be 4th.
All right, so Idris and I have him finishing 3rd. John has him finishing 4th, and now we're going to talk about a team that John sort of likes just a little. We're talking about the Green Bay Packers.
I was 9 years old.
The Cheeseheads.
3rd in the NFC North, missing the playoffs in Week 18's loss to the Lions. Key losses: quarterback Aaron Rodgers traded to the Jets. Key additions: Lucas Van Ness, linebacker via the draft. They did get 2 tight ends, as I already stated. Luke Musgrave, as well as Jaden Reed. Wide receiver, Tucker Kraft is your other tight end via the draft. You still have, in my opinion, one of the absolute best cornerbacks in the league, And I think you have a front seven that I was praising going into last year, going to the University of Georgia. I think this year a little bit more of that defense comes to fruition, and you kind of see what you drafted. Jordan Love is obviously going to be the big question mark here, because anybody that follows Packers history should have reasons for optimism, because one thing about this organization is they usually get it right at quarterback, at least in my lifetime. So I do believe that is cause for optimism. In limited duty, I think the kid looked like he knows what he's doing. It's obviously going to be a lot of a learning curve. But having said that, in this particular division, with a lot of teams having issues on the defensive side of the ball, I think Green Bay, one thing that could stand out here, in addition to possibly having the best 1-2 punch at running back, I do think that they potentially could have the best defense, which should keep them in most games. I'll give you my record towards the end of this segment. Whoever wants to go next, go right ahead.
I'll take it this time. I don't know, man. I think Justin Fields. Not Justin Fields. I get those kids messed up. I think Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love will do better than he's done. I think he's mentally there. Because even in relief last year, he looked confident.
Yes,
comfortable.
I thought so.
I think I'm ready for this. He even sounded that way. Of course, Jair, them J's kill me. Jair Alexander, I love this dude.
Arguably the best at his position. He's up there.
I wish he was a Giant so badly. I love him. AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, 1-2 punch, bang, bang. They're going to do what they do. I think the defense will be better. The problem is I think they lost a lot on offense. You lose Aaron Rodgers, you lose Randall Cobb, you lose Lazard. I mean,
it's going to come down to the kids, man.
Yeah,
Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs going to have to take some big leaps this year.
They're going to have to, and that's the problem I'm having with them. Because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. A bad season for him is still a great season for most of the quarterbacks in the league, and you're losing that. So I'm going to go 7-10 with them, 4th place. And I don't think so much. I don't think he'll be on Jordan Love. I just think he won't have enough around him to really do better. I think he'll do better, but I think he just doesn't have enough around him to push him up a bit further. Right now, I think next year, but right now, I think he just doesn't have enough around him.
And that would also follow suit, because usually with the Packers, it's year 2 when their new quarterback really hits the ground running. John, you're up. What are your thoughts on your Packers?
Well, Love is an unknown, but I think you used the word optimism. I have a lot of optimism that he's going to really kind of break out and do as well as Rodgers did in his Rodgers rookie season. Mm-hmm. Well, not rookie, but I mean his first.
We know what you mean, because he sat the Pines for a few years.
He sat for 3 years behind Favre, but he had Rodgers had 3,700 yards passing, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Mm-hmm. I think Love is going to top those numbers. I think he's going to be closer to 4,000 yards. I think he'll have about 28 passing touchdowns, and he may have more interceptions than Rodgers. I mean,
most people do.
Yeah, most people do. But we've got a core there, a rookie. Well, I mean, a young receiving core. We saw what Watson did last year after about the 7th, 8th game.
Kid's good.
He put up more touchdowns in the second half of the season than many veteran receivers caught touchdowns all year. Mm-hmm. I think he had 9 receiving touchdowns in 9 games. A couple of them were 3 touchdown games, and there was 1 or 2 touchdown games. But he showed his speed. They say Dobbs is having an excellent training camp. So I think that we're going to be okay. I think back to draft picks that the Packers made, like Jordy Nelson. We drafted him in the 2nd round. Green Bay has something against picking a wide receiver in the 1st round. They just want to do it. But, it took Nelson about 2 years, third year, before he really started to excel. So I think Watson is going to excel, and I think Dobbs is going to be our number 2. And I guess Musgrave and Kraft are going to be a two-headed tight end players, possibly both in the game at the same time. But I've heard one of the Packers, Elgin Jenkins, was on Good Morning Football talking about Musgrave was looking good.
I actually am very high on him as a tight end coming out of college. I think whenever you get a young quarterback, it's important to have those security blankets that make life a little easier. And in addition to the 2 tight ends, I think what helps you here is you have 2 proven running backs that both, when healthy, are still one of the best tandems in the entire NFL. They're always, when you talk about best duos, they're always going to be in the conversation.
Right. I didn't even
Aaron
touch
Jones
on
has great hands. Great hands.
Yeah, he makes some fantastic catches.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to I think Jordan Love's going to do great. I just don't think he'll have enough around him to, win the games. But I think he'll do. I mean, I'm high on the kid. I think he'll. Yeah.
Well, now he's going to be, previously, and everybody loved Aaron Rodgers, but
you keep going, John. I'm just going to get a little more coffee.
The 2 diehard Rodgers lovers, they don't like Love because he was drafted to take Rodgers' place.
Yeah.
So now this year, he's our quarterback. So he's going to start to feel the love. I think he's going to have
a nice play on
real good passing games.
Yeah.
And
feel the love.
Hey, love is good. That was a good one.
As I said, I said, let's play on the word, man.
Love is going to feel the love, Richie, this year. So
feel it. Hey, you know what? That might be the slogan in the stands. People would feel the love.
Gentlemen, what are your final records here for Green Bay?
I'm going 7-10. I said 7. I said 7-10. Golly. I'm gonna go 8-9. I think they'll tie with the Bears.
That's my prediction. I'm going 8-9, and the reason I have them finishing in second as opposed to third is that I think they're going to sweep the Bears.
I think
I would say 9-8.
There you go. And that could potentially and might as well ask them, is that going to sneak you in this year?
Ooh.
Yes. Just
all right.
Because I'm a Packer fan, yes.
Why not? Why not?
We could have got in with that record last year.
That's true.
Until we laid an egg against Detroit.
You guys are playing the AFC West this year. Your fill-in game is against – no, excuse me. Yeah, AFC West. And who is your fill-in game this year? I'm trying to remember. I know that –
we got the Saints. You mean from the AFC?
Yeah, your 5th AFC game. I was curious as to who that was. Because I know the West is the division you guys play this year.
We play the Steelers.
There you go. So each 5th game for that division is playing a North team. And is that in Pittsburgh or is that in Green Bay?
That's at Pittsburgh.
That's going to be a tough one, but that could be a swing game to see how your season goes. I got the Packers finishing in second place this year at 9-8. We're going to move it along to the Detroit Lions. Finishing second last year, as I mentioned, they did beat the Packers in Lambeau, which ruined everything because me and Zappy were hot on them to be one of those teams that would run the table. Key losses, running back DeAndre Swift, he's a Philadelphia Eagle. Running back Jamal Williams, he's going to be sharing the backfield with Alvin Kamara out in New Orleans. Key additions, Cameron Sutton via free agency. Running back David Montgomery, he's going to be the veteran presence helping out rookie Jahmyr Gibbs. Marvin Jones is back. I kind of like that. This kid Gibbs, he's going to be the real deal out of college. I think he and Bijan Robinson are going to be in the hunt for Offensive Rookie of the Year. A guy that I actually wanted the Giants to draft, linebacker Jack Campbell. Sam Laporta definitely needed a tight end because they did trade T.J. Hawkinson last year, as did I acquire him in our fantasy league. I am a co-champion. Just wanted to let you know. Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson, I think year 2 is where he's going to have the big year, similar to other guys that get held a lot. You know, it's part of like a rite to passage when you're a pass rusher that the referees just don't seem to throw the flags if you're a young dude. It's just part of the game. It happened to Kayvon Thibodeau last year. It happened to Micah Parsons year 1. A lot of guys go through this. But what's interesting here with the Lions is that I still question how good their defense is and if you're going to see a lot of what you saw last year. Jared Goff played at a very high level. They really coached him up into looking similar to what he was at his peak with the LA Rams before he kind of hit a wall and ultimately got traded for Matt Stafford. I think this team goes as far as the offense can take them, as far as Amon-Ra St. Brown, Goff, and this dual threat at running back can take them. I'm going to pick them to win this division for one simple reason. Although they are far from perfect, I think that they have a little bit more working in their direction than the other teams. This is year 2 of basically the experiment of selling to their fans, hey, we're actually kind of back now. You know, this is a team that were it not for Seattle winning their final game of the year, would have snuck into the playoffs. This is a team that towards the end of the season, nobody really wanted to play. Given the difficulty, you know, given the difficulty of the schedule, it's kind of mid-tier in terms of around the league. I think the ceiling for this team would be 12-5. I think the floor would be 8-9 if they really disappointed or nursed a lot of injuries. Man. I'm going to go 10-7 for the Lions winning this division. I was close to giving them a few more wins, and then I said, wait a minute, these are still the Lions. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But I do think 10-7 will be good enough to win this division next year. And the biggest reason why I got these guys winning the division next year is I think there's a distinct possibility they could run the table on this division. I've got them losing one game in the division, and that one loss will actually be to the Green Bay Packers. I think they're going to sweep Minnesota because they should have last year, and I think they're going to sweep the Bears. I think that divisional record is going to be the main reason that gets them to 10 wins because if you win, say, 5-1, you only got 5 more games to win to hit that 10 plateau. That's my prediction for these guys. Dan Campbell gets them to the playoffs, but I'm going to forecast it now. It'll be a short stay.
Well, I think that Goff had a good bounce back year last year. 4,400 yards passing, 29 touchdowns. This St. Brown has turned into a stud receiver.
Indeed.
And I see him going 11-6.
Okay.
I kind of like the line. I mean, besides, you know, I like the Lions better than the Vikings or Bears.
That makes sense.
We've beaten up on them pretty badly over the years, but even like the Bears play us tough, the Lions usually split with us. Even when Green Bay was having their 3 lost seasons, usually one was to Detroit. Yeah,
you always kind of had issues in their stadium, whether it was Ford Field or whether you go back to the Pontiac Silverdome days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think of when I was a kid in the 60s. Back then, there was one Thanksgiving game every year for probably 15 years in a row. It was Green Bay visiting Detroit, and they beat us back in our dynasty. But that's the Thanksgiving games have come a long way since then. But getting back to Detroit, I think that they're going to edge the Vikings for first place with a 11-6 record this year. So the receivers, I was thinking about the Jameson Williams, who's out for 6 games?
I believe so. Yeah, he's looking at a 6-game suspension. Yes.
I wish he hadn't done that. He was potentially a freeze for me this year, but I can't afford to not have a guy for the first 6 games. So, but I think the potential's there with him and St. Brown. I'm not even exactly. Do they still have Marvin Jones?
Yeah, Marvin Jones left and came back. He was a Jaguar for a brief while.
Yeah.
They brought him, and I like that move.
Yeah, he was
thrive with what they've built in his absence. Now they bring him back. He's the old man in the receiving room. I think it's a nice look.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But and this Gibbs could be a fantasy point maker for anybody who drafts him.
I noticed in some of these mock drafts that I've been doing, he's going pretty high. I think him and Bijan, the two truly notable rookies, because Zach Charbonnet is another guy that's going to be good. You got Miami's rookie, but I think those are the two that are going to really stand out this year. Charbonnet's good, but he's backing up Kenneth Walker, so I don't think he's going to get like the instant impact.
The thing with and their other running back Montgomery, he went there, right?
Yeah, he knows this division.
He was a running back I've had so many times on my team. I don't want to pick him. I don't want to pick him. And then, if you get one stud running back, then you like to get a second stud running back.
Yeah, you try to.
I better take Montgomery. At least he gets a few touchdowns. But Gibbs, I think, will be the man there.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think what happens with guys like Montgomery is sometimes when you're building a fantasy team, you're like, oh, shit, I need another running back, and then he's still there. And that's usually how people end up getting him. But I think the good thing for fantasy players this year is that I think running back and the talent and the point potential is a lot deeper than previous years, because part of that reasoning is that you have rookies that are going to make bigger impacts immediately. Mm-hmm. Some of the guys I just mentioned, and I think it kind of opens up the running back field where you can still get quality in rounds 7, 8, 9.
Is he a pass catcher too?
Yeah, Jameer does it all. I have a feeling that he's going to be the real deal. Might be the best running back they had since Barry Sanders, but of course, we don't want to just, throw out those kind of compliments that early because, Barry was a different kind of animal.
Yes, for sure.
I think I agree with everything you guys said, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, I do.
And I think Jared Goff, I think he's coming into his own. And this team is hungry. And I watched the video yesterday of Dan Campbell doing up downs with the team. And he actually did more than them and did them faster.
Yeah, former New York Giant. He was on our 2000 Super Bowl team.
Exactly. So, and I think when you have a coach who's out there doing his thing, and you got to play for this man because he's showing you, I'm working with you guys. If I'm putting in this work, y'all got to put in this work, and I think they'll do better. I think they'll win a division. I think they'll be 11-6. I say because I'm not sold on the Vikings, but we'll get on them next. But I think it'll be a short stay in the playoffs as well because Philly, Dallas, Frisco, Seattle, they're going to be tough. Our New York Giants, now that we got Saquon back, who knows? And like John was saying about Green Bay, you get them in the playoffs, those teams like Green Bay who you're not expecting to really blow it up, really show out, you get them in the playoffs, they can knock you out because they say, we ain't got nothing to lose.
I would, at Campbell, Idris. Campbell, the head coach there, he is certainly the definition of a fiery coach.
Yes.
That guy can fire them up. I've seen, a lot of the head coaches are just stand on the sideline and look out at the field and almost like no emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this guy has emotion and he fires up that team.
He's a player's coach through and through, and he's the type of guy that I don't think you question that he's willing to do whatever he asks of you. And I think especially when you have a younger team, that's one of the biggest driving forces that gets a team like that to the next level. Because, there have been a lot of sorry times in Detroit. And even this guy, early last season, he was on the hot seat. And I remember doing a show with Zappy, and we both agreed that he could get fired. And he turned it around. So, you got to give him credit for that, especially in a division that still had Aaron Rodgers in it. We're going to close this out with last year's division winner, the Minnesota Vikings. They won this division. Were eliminated by our New York Giants in round 1. Justin Jefferson coming off a historical season. Rookie wide receiver Jordan Addison, who's already in a little bit of trouble. We're going to see if there's any suspensions that come with that due to some reckless driving. Obviously, after the situation that went down in Vegas with Ruggs, very sensitive topic around the league. Running back Dalvin Cook was released. He's currently a free agent, and that loss is the one that I think is truly going to hurt them. The veteran Adam Thielen, who was a Viking forever, he's a Carolina Panther now. And they lost some help here on defense. Patrick Peterson is a Steeler. Zadarius Smith is a Brown. Dalvin Tomlinson, former New York Giant, he's a Brown as well. And some of the key additions, I already stated, Addison, you got Blackman via the draft. You got Jay Ward via the draft. Now, notice they went cornerback back-to-back, which kind of stresses that they do not have a good enough defense to really do something. I'm going to say this short and sweet. Kirk Cousins, very likable guy, one of the nicest guys in the league. Justin Jefferson is a phenomenal talent. It would not surprise me if Justin Jefferson leads the league in receiving again. I don't know if he could top last year. Last year was pretty remarkable. I think this year, this is a team that loses a lot of the games that they won last year. You can't keep getting away without having a solid defense, because another thing that I noticed about this team is that while having a very good record, those 4 losses they had were smackdowns. And I think there's going to be a few more smackdowns this year. And I really think that they're underestimating how big the loss of a Dalvin Cook is. Some people might be a little shocked at how low I have them this year. I got these dudes finishing 4th, going 7-10. And the difference between the 6 games, 13 last year, 7 this year, is that they can't stop a nosebleed. The Minnesota Vikings are going to be in the basement this year. And when you see a team like a Green Bay, young team, either missing the playoffs or getting close to it, you look at a Chicago Bears team trending upward, this might be the season that, whether it's his fault or not, where you kind of look past the Kirk Cousins and maybe think about a bigger rebuild. And a guy like Justin Jefferson, prime years to come, not necessarily sure if he wants to be a part of that. Jordan Addison's going to be a phenomenal talent, but we got to see how this shakes out with the legal stuff. 7-10 for the Vikings. Disappointing year. I got the Lions sweeping them. I got them splitting with the Pack, and I got them splitting with the Bears. But they're not going to have a great season.
Everything you said. It's on you, John.
Well, I think, didn't they win? How many games was it? They won by 3.
They won
5 games, six games. It was.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable how many one-score games they won. That was an NFL record, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, Jefferson can only take you so far. Even if he has 9 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's still only going to be 2 touchdowns. And Dalvin Cook, I think he has slipped a little bit from his first 3-4 years. But I think that this Madison, his backup that they signed to a new contract, is going to probably be a good point getter in fantasy. But I guess I picked them 9-8, so they're. And I didn't realize all the defensive guys they lost.
Yeah, it's pretty scary when you look at Patrick Peterson. He's a Steeler. He's going to help that team.
Yeah.
Dalvin Tomlinson, who I myself was very upset when the New York Giants let him go. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Giants had a vision that Dexter Lawrence was going to be that guy, so I'm not as upset about it these days. Zadarius Smith, you're familiar with him too, John. Damn good player. Mm-hmm. That's my issue with them. I think they're going to be able to still score points, but I think they're going to be on the wrong side of some of these shootouts, and I don't think they're going to have that incredible luck that they had last year.
Yeah. I think they're going to regret losing Tomlinson, Cook, Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, Patrick Peterson, even though he's not exactly what he was when he first started, he's still a guy that you want in your locker room. He's a hell of a leader. Yeah, he's a hell of a leader, man. Great guy to teach younger players. He demands respect because of his resume, and he's kind of like an extension of the coaching staff in a lot of ways. Players like that who've been around.
And looking at their games last year, especially early on, they won a lot of games, but they had to come from behind from big deficits.
Yeah, man.
Even our New York Giants, with the Skeletons team, we hung 31 on them.
Sure did.
Lost by field goal in overtime.
And then we got them in the game that mattered.
Got them in the game that mattered. Yeah, I'm saying 7. I like Kirk Cousins. I really do.
He's a good guy, man. After watching that Netflix documentary on the quarterback, hard not to like that guy. One of the nicest players in the league.
He's a good quarterback.
He
My
is.
thing with Cousins is when it counts.
Yeah.
He's like James Harden in basketball.
He's definitely he's definitely catching those Derek Carr, Tony Romo comparisons, because some of the most likable guys to play the position in the league, no matter who you root for, these are guys that are quality humans. Yeah. But it just seems like they just can't get over the hump in crunch time. And unfortunately, whether it's deserved or not, Kirk is falling into that category. And I got news for you. I don't care how many points he gets. I will not draft him in fantasy. That dude always screws me when I need him to do something.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He's
Brett, let Brett get him. Brett, that's yours. You can have Kirk Cousins. Dorney, go after him.
He's hard. I'm telling you, man.
He's one of those guys like David Montgomery. It's like, is he still there? Damn, maybe I should take him. And he put up some big numbers, but not every game.
Yeah. Hold on, man. Yes, I say 7-10 Minnesota. They go back into obscurity. Blow it up next year.
I don't have the highest expectations for them this year whatsoever. This was a good show, gentlemen, and we're going to be back pretty soon, and we're going to continue to bring you into more and more NFL previews for these divisions, as well as incorporating baseball into other shows, because as you all know, the trade deadline is on the horizon. Mm-hmm. We're going to find out if our New York Yankees make some necessary moves to stay in this race. John's Brewers, not quite dead. Maybe they could spend a little money and appease the Milwaukee fans. They got a great fan base out there. We're going to see how a lot of these moves play out. And, of course, the biggest name, Shohei Ohtani. Will the Los Angeles Angels have the audacity to trade him? It is definitely a dice gamble if you're going to let him hit free agency and just assume you're going to bring him back. So definitely a lot to talk about.
Let me say something about the Brewers right quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're a team that, for some reason, I like them. Even as a Yankee fan, even when they were in the AL, I had a liking to them for some reason. I don't know why. The problem with the Brewers, like I said last season, they will do good, then they'll say, you know what? Let's find a way to not win.
They piss me off, man. I'm not even a Brewers fan, but I'm like, guys, do the right thing by the fans.
Yeah, it's like they find a way to
spend some money.
We had a great half a season or three-quarter season. Let's just pack it in.
I'll tell you why I like them.
Yeah.
No other team has a mascot that when you hit a home run, he basically swims into a pool of beer. If you can't get down with that, I don't know what to tell you.
That's what I'm saying. They're the one team.
Cheese and beer. Like, how can anybody hate that town?
Yeah. Because I had always said if I wasn't a Yankee fan, I'm diehard. If I wasn't a Yankee fan, I would probably be a Brewers fan.
Cheese and beer, bro. It's kind
of who has sausage races?
How can you not like the Brewers, man?
I remember old school, like watching on PIX, like old school Yankee games.
Yeah.
Phil Rizzuto, he always used to want to make like an extra mention of Vaughn's Valley. I remember back in the day, and that dude used to kill us back then. That was still they still had Robin Yount on those teams,
Yeah, that's what I mean. The Brewers, that's the one team other than the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's the one team I would love to see win the World Series. The Brewers.
Yeah,
I would love to see.
We don't have one.
That's what I'm saying. I would love to see them. Not against my Yankees, though.
No,
don't get me wrong. But I would love to see it because it's Wisconsin, it's beer, it's cheese, it's sauce, it's all that shit.
We're going up there this weekend, by the way.
Oh,
yeah?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean,
so we got you at the right time to do this preview.
Yep.
Yeah. So
we're doing the Packer Hall of Fame on Monday next week.
Do me a favor, John. Make sure you send me some pictures and maybe a video or two, and I can post them on the podcast page for sure.
Yep, the girls are coming too. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Sounds
Mel
like
and Shanna and Reggie and Malachi and Kathy and I, and we're bringing Josh's girl Marilyn. So.
And we also want to make a mention to you. We do have a head-to-head matchup this year on Sunday Night Football. So we got plenty of time to plan that. We're going to have to link up for that game, John, in the Meadowlands this time around. Giants and Packers, always a very historic rivalry. A lot of history. A lot of history between those two.
It was a good game, man.
Always a good game. Great job, gentlemen. I really enjoyed this show. For Idris and for my guy, Mr. John Olson, NFC North preview. Football is back. Please like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. We are out for now.